Hello, as a species coach, we should all deploy revolution slash evolution trap as a counter game to counter, to fund. So we need to have a means that's transparent. Is there anyone who will help with a charity that's not for charity? Because we're not going to. It's going to be completely owned as a like a benchmark. We're this mean stack. Miss Warren asked for anyone who has a plan better. This is it, Miss Warren. So take half of 1 trillion is 500 billion. Half of that. So we just stack more means than 10 trillion, as also the means that are going to change the nature of human fact treating nature to all finite things. Because if by accepting these are artistic reliefs, but that are also religious reliefs, where we have untapped the standing native, worse than forsaken, all identity of the ground, locations, areas, and states are recorded originally and still having been maintained effectively. So self cultivated already, self-valued, and that defended a human fact treatment nature manifest in relationship to this. Free speech is not. That's why and how a whole bunch of people associated with Connecticut media on and off their locations, whole bunch of career, what they call intelligence people. It's how they are recorded, having been used remote from off campuses. Sequence racketeering. Now, I'm also a shadowboxing expert. 5 years, I was one of the most active open class fighters in USA boxing. Right before little before the World Trade Center attack. Last time I fought, Washington D.C. But I'm from Connecticut. This is also intercities, interstates connected. Same ones involved right before the World Trade Center attack. And in the context leading up to it through time, then close to that time. That's why I stopped boxing. I was waiting for what I thought. I was also asking for help. No one will give help, and everyone writes other into databases, which is how I figured out, also out of sequence. So these are all the natures of courts, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. These are dozens of people and their family members from the Britain Superior Court, from Hartford Courts, before the World Trade Center attack, Connecticut. On and off with locations around on and off where George Washington had to come right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, and even with the French general's help, had to leave slavery overt with color in the laws. Had to leave slavery against themselves, our founders. Originally and still worse than torture, fact treatment nature-wise. Again, where it is unceasing and increasing. My science, where I don't have free speech, where everyone else does. Everyone's fighting to tell everyone to make opinions about strangers when they're trying to use finite, active, and sequence true proofs. So we have truths about what is proper evidence reception that are trained by campuses, but they're trained as victims. We're from off campuses on off in layers. All identities of law, all positions of them, even military, especially regarding such, distinctly and non-distinctly. All kinds of medical racketeering, foreign domestic. That is that other natures of motivations for it. Sequence racketeering, preventing mandated law, as the only ones standing there to do it. Originally and still worse than witch trials. Victims, but victim predators only having known roles with each age of Kansas. The colleges and universities are recorded and involved in a method actually recorded, associated with Church Street and Old Weathersfield. Whole bunch of houses I barely know. And all those contexts, those are people that sought me out. All exceptions are in demonstration of the same thing. And these are all the topics in the news. The news is recorded and confessed, for example, with intonation like get Russians against the Russians, making conspiracy theories against us, preventing us from. That's why Connecticut News attached me to fake locations and fake words with intelligence and with people and with military, foreign and domestic, with people involved with child programs on and off campuses connected with the same racketeering acts needed to hid facilitations to it that were already unchallenged originally and still. Our founders left us to have free speech. We can't have it because the branches are stacking falsified police reports through time in conjunction with themselves using means pretended to be legitimate offensive evidence reception processes and acts and natures. Really, pretending they're legalized criminal justice natures, but really they are recorded criminally legalized and having been self-valued, you having been used remote, with that having had to be hid because of their roles with careers and investigations. We have fire department inspectors, victims of like all these people associated also with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, also involved with the other branches. See, these are the branches individually grouped and together manifest as crime natures and crime methods manifest this way. This is why it's important to understand the recorded uses of the locations, like the media locations, the locations next to them, on and off those locations, because these are also people involved with so many natures of bonded child abuses and of elderly abuses and of roles with all the crimes that have been so far. The only people allowed to counter them, not by accident, in collusion, what there's really going on. That's why and how they're making mistakes, setting up innocent people and people who did wrong. They have statutes and precedents. They're pretending as no, that's I'm just trying to follow the law. I'm pretending to be against dictator. They're not following sequence. This reveals them originally and still with this. You can't defend that and us at the same time. These are naive narratives of logic that are in conjunction with and as the original identity thefts, racketeering, fraud, way worse, that are unceasingly and increasingly answers to finite, active, and progressive questions about regarding American history, regarding our founders, regarding regarding slavery in ways they're still forcing everyone to be collusion with, black and white, everyone, by preventing actually sequence true. And it's recorded how they have that so physically delusions wrought. Every time anyone makes an opinion, they're led by others' opinions that are they're not led by scientific process, scientific consensus, honest, and they're self-valuing that not honestly, because everyone's only defending styles of liars manifest. Style that's maintained. Because this is an identity trap that just needs that identity self-ground. From off campuses at the same time, on and off campuses, self-valued, criminally foreign influenced, roles, self-valuing roles with everyone's speaking to others with all where everything mixed, has sensibilities people don't want to speak about in Blake's context. They're locking people in. Our agencies, other agencies at the same time. They're locking the states and areas in all locations as styles of liars that need to keep leaders used as names, pretending to be a positive like them. And they need to pretend to be against such at the same time because they are misprision identities. Each branch individual is. Each identity of job, title, justice, like all the positions of each branch originally instilled. They're an identity of negative value nature progressions, criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments, nature treatments. Now they're as victims that didn't realize they were backed in just like those crazy gangs. In collusion with what used originally and still all identity of the ground locations. It's not debatable, but the extent of it, and that is all what is not debatable is already self-valued, debated offensively. Delusions rot, criminally foreign influence premises treatment. That's why it's so. The only thing valuable about the bad things that hurt in the past is that and how it demonstrates the racketeering, the war organized crime method worse than war crimes. It shows a method that juxtaposed a whole bunch of nature's needs and interests, real but tactically ulterior from what really kept those databases, what really kept the minds of everyone so hurt and in such sustained ways before our founding parents were born. Before Mao Zedong was born, all modern nations were captive, forced to be shared police by what took over the value of internation sciences to our human fact-treatment nature. In relationship to what? All identity of the ground locations, areas, states, sequence nature. So we have this to seize as this is where you discern where reliefs come from artistically, religiously, educationally. This is from before distinctly and non-distinctly, while it is distinctly and non-distinctly, also simultaneously the value of the identity of the ground. I'll gather round. While it is not just the value of our modern foundation, zoning laws recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, self-valued by everyone involved with the fact-treatment nature, torture, and slavery of our founders, and simultaneously pretending to be concerned about their intentions. The same sick logic as the overt criminal enterprises, because they're recorded, used by this. They use an identity that needs everyone to stay apparent and be apparent more and more, invested to these other motivations, natures, needs, interests, to hide the same sequence shifts, finite lies, active lies, progressive lies, identity and identity racketeering, thefts, frauds, roles, all natures of motivations of a tactical alternative than they pretended originally and still, all identities of jobs, identity of the ground locations, identities of titles, identities of the sciences, because they share an identity that is being obfuscated, worse than obfuscated. We don't have free speech just to make sound because they're using databases interbranch and with the news. They already have racketeering with these overt criminal enterprises and with the private ones. Their motivations, because they were victims made to blame on other things, others themselves, what was furthered intercampuses, their identities told to defend them. They're pretending courts could solve things. These courts, the branches of the identities of government, individually grouped it together. They're recording how having been using each age of fact-treatment nature to cover up their roles, having been facilitated to need to self-value their knowledge of other people, where that is kept. Our branches of government criminally foreign influenced. Our locations next to we have a whole bunch of ways. Fire departments from Connecticut, They have the sense and sensibilities people I don't even know the names of involved with this. Because then they invested people to databases that we don't have public knowledge of, that they use to keep self-value, what then is used further and further remotely, defending only identities and titles as what they're pretending to be against, like dictators. These are worse than this is identity racketeering. It's recorded standing manifest that now there are 5 identities of sequence nature. Identities of the ground relationship that one identity of value progression has to itself. Per science, per needs to discern the scientific value. That is the scientific value of the order of the finite, of the order to what is active, and the order of what is progressive simultaneously. Now, this is where shadow boxing, especially, like online companies, like online regular just websites that aren't even monetized yet, or aren't. They're, like an algorithm is like a fighters are like 2 algorithms. So if you get hit, you're going to be, if you stay on balance, your algorithm is going to slow down. The algorithm of this identity of value progression doesn't, not only does it not slow down, there are means to hold on to what it's going to set up and to stay ourselves as its identity of relationship to itself. That brings means out of nowhere from the 2 semi-natures of itself that don't mix with temporary, where it is temporary / lasting space nature, but as forever nature. And how distinctly where and how we are a qualitative diffusion, temporary possession of its complete nature, inseparable from its complete nature's identity of relationship to itself and the value of it per its course. Distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, and sequentially, before and after, but also that those identities mix with that as forever nature's identity of relationship to itself. Again, distinctly and non-distinct, because from our perspective, we're a quality of diffusion, positive or negative, as our nature's nature, as our nature's relationship, semi-nature relationship to this identity of value progression. That we not only need the name of, singular, to study as forever's identity / s, but we also need to have more understanding of why and how there are other names of it. The same reason we have to understand why and how. It is the same reason why we have sexes, ages, areas, physical culture, metaphysical culture, distinct from identity culture, which contains the metaphysical and the physical. So we have needs by use as well, like value, that are tactically ulterior. That these are that these that speak for value are all tactical ulterior from trained to it from campuses, from off them, maintain further and further, already having been and being. Not just sense and sensibilities, use Jane Austen's phrase, standing criminal citizens nature, as victims with reactions and then defenses of reactions, methodically maintained, used remotely. already in layers, already to and as what can't defend itself and afford to hear or to allow heard. Logic with no criminal foreign influences, logic with no delusions, physical delusions, no. And the identity of physics is the identity of physical subjects know how they are here. Only the extent of it is debatable. Manifest, subject, metaphysical, value. Simultaneously, identity, value. Only the extent of it is debatable. See, we have scientific consensus and scientific process recorded criminally foreign influence. What's that have to do with anything? Now, when an individual with an identity of the ground position says something about areas that they need to pretend that they're with theories. They need to they need to lie about the premises these people are using and myself. They need to lie about the sequence. They are still identity racketeering roles. All locations, areas, and states, let alone originally and still everyone contained within this. So not only do we know, in other words, the police are victims, and but this is how they're victim predators, distinctly and non-distinctly from how the judicial branch are victim predators on and off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices of out of sequence, all kinds of sequence racketeering, evidence reception racketeering, and roles with child offenders associated with that, identity racketeering associated with sequence shifts, associated with a Fianza family, a Kerr family, with and other people I don't know the name of on and off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, Mike Roberts, Eric Jensen, a whole bunch of people associated with former director of the FBI, with crimes with kids with them, like a Thaddeus Grabowski, a Dawn LeConch, and her father and family recorded, confessed to demonstrating involved with the Joe DeMoro, and people associated with a Kerr family, with fire departments and with Weathersfield town offices, with racketeering uses of that and of their roles with AT&T racketeering, and uses of the corners. There was a woman, I don't know if it was a real baby or what it was. I don't know, for example, at the corner where there's a Pruda house, at the corner of Maple Street in Griswold. And this is recorded a corner involved also with a whole bunch of police from intercities who are involved with identity theft, racketeering, and frauds tied to their roles with falsified police reports and all kinds of evidence racketeering and way worse, leading up to and in the Trade Center attack, but also intercampuses, colleges, and universities through time involved with child campuses, with racketeering on and off of it, maintained connected, as database racketeering and roles with it, motivations missed because they're kept from that. This would made Native Americans miss this too. Everyone missed it. We're in a semi-ancient trap. So one must rap. So we have to have free speech. They are recorded interbranch, pretending passions and emotions in relationship to their racketeering uses of databases. These are people people in jail every day. Innocent people, other. These are courts involved, recorded with racketeering with the people who run the prisons. People with Sandy Hook that were involved with crimes with kids when I went to a grammar school. The grammar school recently had proven a principal sex offender. It was recorded then, and before that, I tried to report it. They wouldn't let me, and they attached me to fake words and everyone else. They attached the kids fake locations, fake words, fake ties to people, and then off the campus anyway, a principal sex offender was caught. That's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with people with a corner on the corner of Walcott Hill. on corners on Walker Hill, involved with a Chris Walters, and with people on and off the Wethersfield, on and off all the post offices, locations on and off the Southstein Middle School. Further recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with foreign and domestic medical racketeering. People involved with the Zano family also. I barely know them. They're all, I only know them in context where they were involved with the people that are involved now. Dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court, prosecutors retired and standing, judges retired and standing, further involved with the principal sex offenders campus then and now. My Wethersfield police chief's family, his daughter, I don't ever met her. I haven't had a class with her. They have a whole bunch of people that also with private school kids that lived on each side of my school in collusion with them, with database racketeering and stealing people's identity. They don't even know them. And they're making people invested to what they hear, pretend it is real that way. That's why they had WFSB and Fox Connecticut News and NBC tell all these lies and attach me to fake locations, fake words, fake relationships to complete strangers, fake relationships to natures of relationships to other people, fake sequence relationships. They did this to my family, they did this to other people, they did this to kids. There's a woman named O'Neill recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with people on my street, with child sex offenders, with other natures of racketeering, though, then when juxtaposed with that. Female judges, prosecutors involved with this, state's attorneys, crime methods, roles, forging names and switching names, forcing people to speak through other people criminally, to pretend we have words and pretend I had conversations with my family about things I never did that are recorded. Other than they're pretending are recorded. They're lying about what is recorded online. The Britain Superior Court's Facebook page and their police, their state's attorneys, their roles with DACA program, their roles with military families, with identity thefts, frauds, mail crime roles, wire crime roles, whole wire crime methods, whole mail crime methods, whole sick exploitations of anomaly where the human fact cheaping nature where everyone's just going to ask the next title next to them. But there's an identity of negative value nature progression. They're forging names, switching names, pretending people have never had conversations. I've been asking since I was a kid for counters to this too, because there's a former mayor Gold, other mayors, I don't even know. Also, he's got a Debbie Gold and a Lee Gold. And they have other family members of theirs involved with kids with all kinds of formal drug crimes and per them speaking through other people too. And they're involved with them per their roles with sequence shifts, with database racketeering. Pretend I had conversation with that girl in my life 2 times. So these are, I need a response, because if you call over the phone, they have recorded, confessed, and demonstrated the phones being used and what they're using, sustained for sick, fake aggression as the people forcing fake care and spreading sick rumors through kids, making them think they know about things they don't know about at all. Making them further lie progressions and delusions that locations, areas, and states all need to hide from presidents while they're needing to pretend to be about logic and positive. While they had obligations 10,000 times over. We have to get to the with the identity of the ground relationship that can evolve, never let alone left. That's against us all when they can't explain why and how they couldn't afford. Like, well, we can't afford the proper water treatments. We have identity ground relationships since before cars. Self-value. But it's been way worse. That was used remote. So this is before and beyond industry. We have, I heard things on TV. I don't know, it was on Link TV. I don't know, if it was on PBS. But it was other states. They have healthcare problems. They have locations that were healthcare deserts. I believe they use that phrase. You've heard the phrase food deserts. See, these are things that are employed by this method, worse than war crimes, that American history is really about, that each modern nation's history is really about. So thank you. So what did we do? I told you we set up the identity of the ground differential identity of relativity modules, and when we put that as 10 bonded charities, because that's innate, and when we have an animate fund for what is transparent, and where we could where we can make claim worse than bottom and bottom above where we are now. But to do this, we have to move as one, as a species body, and we have to be as a nature, as humanity, that is this nature's identity of relationship to itself, that the Santa Claus why do you think it's about positive every day? In many pray. All identities of the ground locations are in collusion. The problems with the church was that, and how the judicial branch, the executive branch, grouped and individually, they have distinct crime methods recorded, actually recorded crime natures, like crime methods of readings of statutes that leave out their roles would sustain racketeering with the areas, sustained identity thefts, frauds, fake conversations, and identity human trafficking roles. That's what they're involved with. Now, so they are incapable of holding an election because originally and still entrenched is that using effectively breaching method maintained self-valued further and further roles, exploiting the not only the tactically denatured identity of the ground, relationship to the identity of value progression perfect, the identity of modern nations, foundations where it is counts, where we have fact treatment nature, sequence treatment nature, identity nature, and the identity of relationships between that, as well as an increasing value. See, this identity of value progression that is really the order to the delicate, the order to the finite, which the order to the finite is, as an identity of the ground relationship, as an identity of physical body relationship. And see, this one identity, where it is distinct and not distinct onto each of its identities of sub-volume, of sub-nature. Complete identities, but like ourselves, complete identities that are semi-nature relationship to itself. That's why and how we have two sexes and what's coming in and out of that simultaneously as value. See, this is value's actual course, though, is relationship to identity. This is what positive and negative are really about, but in relationship to these five identities, because that's how you see the one that bonds all things at once and generating them. One identity of, oh, that's debatable. But you're not allowing me to show the identity of the ground proofs. You guys are you know that because the branch of the government have been coaching people to lie, which will reveal other. They will say other. See, the whole time when we're talking about this, these are police forms, their families, they stack names of people hating who doesn't even know them. because they were involved with this. That's how they bring each age of campus on and off and further involved. They know each person wants the natural course of what we need positive for. Keep breaking positive out of negative. These are people that you have the word perfect world in their narratives, with their roles, with abuses of each age of fact-shaping nature. On off all locations from off them further and further on them. So we have a whole bunch of houses, people I don't know, I only barely know. They only saw me out barely, and they're all involved with sequence shifts tied to that. On and off Two Rod Highway, and on and off Hangdog Lane, where it runs into Hangdog Lane, and where it runs into the Berlin Turnpike. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with dozens of people from CCSU I had nothing to do with. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with that they have roles with database racketeering, with former director of the FBI, and with many people at CCSU involved with connected racketeering acts that also facilitated, were used as other natures of racketeering acts, illusions they need to hide, tied to their roles with the principal sex offender. They need to pretend passions and emotions using people's lies, using what other people tell them. They are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. My town's police chief, his daughter, his extended family member, all the businesses tied to them, like the two bakeries. Those are the families with the two bakeries. Fred Grisette is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated that the people associated with now that's a person who didn't even go to my school. He lived on the east side of my high school, which is the front of the high school. And I barely know him. And I never saw him in the context of Joe DeMoro. I don't know if I ever saw him around Ray Colon. But see, those are people that hung around with his cousins. That's a person who came into my street 2 houses over when I was in 4th grade. His sister and them, they're involved with former director of the FBI's co-defendants and other FBI in the area involved with them with racketeering, with overt criminal enterprises, from with timed sequence racketeering illusion acts roles, and relationships to their sensibilities in relationship to also forensics locations associated with them with people with the body of Billy Grasso, also associated with people on and off the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices, with the Fienza family, and with the roles with the Dillon family, and how that's roles with the people on that, with the on and off campuses positions and sensibilities, like a Spada family is reported, confessed, and demonstrated having been. I would barely know them. I only know them in context where later I found out I haven't seen them since. A Delafero family recorded, confessed over and demonstrated they're involved with judges in a probate in their family, with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering, and with a health class project I did about it. Their roles with drugs with the kids and uses of that to coach them to the database racketeering, sequence racketeering, where they make problems between kids where you don't know them, you don't know the names, and it's tied to with the confessions, like an O'Brien family when I was a kid, that are relevant to also their roles with racketeering acts against me with people from Newtown, Sandy Hook. Also, intercities on and off CCSU with many people associated with racketeering with them, and with a Detective Sumuda, who pretended he was a arresting officer of me, switching his identities with Officer Magnanos and other ones, foreign and domestic, from East Hartford and from Glastonbury. A whole bunch of people associated with a Delafair, a Demoro family also reported confessed. I never saw them there. I never had classes with these people. They have people with a whole bunch of brothers and sisters involved with my town's police chiefs and his foreign and domestic family. Again, intercities with locations on and off the state prison offices, also not just on and off the state judicial branch offices. All along that route, people are involved with racketeering with them. Further, as ones with forensics locations, state police, their families, on and off CCSU, on and off Trinity College, on and off UConn, involved through time with racketeering uses of on and off campuses, not legitimately, where they're sustained programs and stuff like that, undercover training, things like that. They're, these people are furthering what is, again, real bad on and off campuses, but originally still sustained. So it's an identity of campuses that is itself being used. And with the line progression, with the distances from the database relationships, and with their roles with aggressions and with sequence shifts. And if you try to respond to it, they're forging names and switching brand names, grouped and individually, the branches, distinctly and non-distinctly. And that will bring out the also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated retired and standing mayors and other levels of politicians, all victim predators. If they want to be, see how they're used remote as victims, it takes countering what they've been pretending not to realize, what is actually recorded. They're actually recorded natures as criminal and seditious natures, not as legalized ones, as they pretend, oh, we're just a government. We pretend to be against dictators to pretend other. For example, while child abuse the same way the overt criminal enterprises are. Forsaken, worse than forsaken. Same way each areas are. When where there were areas with shootings, those is recorded how the people are motivated, down to their families, how they're abused. Everyone's speaking through others. Then they happen. Then they want to speak about it. Then it makes them. They want to locked in, pretend they perceive things, pretend they were in locations with people that never were, and that's recorded. And that will be confessed by the same people that are pretending other. But you have to force people to follow the law and allow peaceful means to counter where they have sequence racketeering, where they have misprision criminality, where judges and we're grouped and individually, where prosecutors, with their family members, all people tied to them, need to hide the same things from the past they already pretended were other. With investigations like the World Trade Center. These are a whole bunch of people tied to the World Trade Center and what is manifest with that in this conversation. I'm not making theories. I'm asking to report who disbelieves this, because Instant Branch, they forge names, switch names, and this is what is actually recorded. They've been stacking more and more racketeering acts into databases against me and against other people. And that's recorded and involved with the rest of the recorded and confessed people, further with the wire crimes and with the use with the crimes with the courts, with the stewards of the Facebook pages and the sequence racketeering. So they're needing to start fights now because they already lied about what is actually recorded on Facebook, because Hartford courts and New Britain Superior Court was recorded with criminal uses of intercampuses, Connecticut, before the Trade Center attack, and then in the Trade Center attack contexts. And then since it, interstates, worse than interstates, same ones here further involved with this, with further the child sex offenders, medical offenders, interbranch racketeering, human trafficking acts, rolls, clicks. And with WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, attach me to fake locations, fake sequence natures, um, fake relationships to others. Then they pretend lies about the behavior of other. Oh, you should have asked us nicely. You asked it nicely, they stack racketeering acts more further against you. And there's no means to counter. Oh, sue. I can't sue until you get the judges and the prosecutors from the games of speaking through them. They attached me and my family member. They locked us into this worse than torture. Fake conversations with each other that never were. They know what I asked them. They made confessions to me, my family, and to others. That's what those see. That's also their confessions. They don't know that, but it's recorded tied to their roles as racketeering with people in a 2006 district court case, also in Connecticut, with where defendant, former director of the FBI, is recorded involved with them also with the media, for example. I'm skipping now. See, but that's also with the same people with the Clolo family involved with the forensics locations, also with state police families were involved with them, with also other FBI and the stewards of the Witness Protection Program involved with them, also with Los Solitos and other cliques and undercover with them associated with this Dylan guy, with my new and past neighbors, also intercities involved with New Britain Superior Court, with dozens of people involved with the House, with the extended family members, with pretended with crimes with two Mendes police, on and off Fox Connecticut News, and with Thaddeus Grabowski involved with them. Thaddeus Grabowski is one of the co-defendants of former director of the FBI. They are also involved with all these other natures of racketeering acts against me and others as illusions because their roles with programs growing up with database racketeering, with identity thefts, identity frauds, abuses of kids of all kinds, bonded, hurting kids' educations. These are real sick doctors, like with the Leahy family. I never had a conversation in my life with that pretended whole fake conversations with me about about my about my family and about legal cases where former director of the FBI Robert Luskin's also he was also involved with these people involved with these other natures of cases also before, and with the areas used by judges and their sheriffs and people associated with their courts, also with like the corner of Park Street and that school there, as the involved as the ones before the Trade Center attack, involved crimes with kids, as the ones now involved with the principal sex offenders campus, then and further with that. I've been asking to report stuff since before that. They've been lying about what is recorded on wire over the phone. They've been coaching the sensibilities of the people who answer the phone, to say nothing about their uses of the Facebook pages also, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by sex offenders on the registry, by a sex offender on the registry, the principal sex offender, further involved with by people within the Britain Superior Court's Facebook page before then too. Those are the people I was already involved. People asked me and others for what to do because of people influencing them on and off CCSU with New Britain with courts for Hartford courts. I found out later it's involved with them with racketeering with uses of depositions through time. These are also police forms that were pretending passions and emotions in relationship. They were pretending not to know that things were proven that were proven. They were pretending passions and emotions in relationship to pretending people were involved with crimes that police were involved with in the past. They were blaming on other people. That was proven. Now, one of the other federal criminal co-defendants of former director of the FBI was a John LeConte. He has a Don LeConte associated with a Joe DeMauro and Heather Hansen, and his cousin Joe DeMauro, and a Tony DeMauro, and a Mike Kerr, involved with racketeering with judges and with a Dillon family, and with Town Line Drive, all parts of it. That's near the end of the exit. These are also people involved with racketeering on off religious spots of different natures and uses of JCs and the sensibilities. They have a guy named Darren. They have an East Hartford place associated with courts. Now that place is also involved with this database racketeering with businesses and houses that live near it through time, with a whole bunch of people at CCSU involved with them with racketeering acts, human trafficking, falsified police reports, switching names of officers intercities. Now these are a whole bunch of people with on off the state judicial branch offices, but this is a whole bunch of people with East Hartford involved with this DeMauro family that I don't know, pretending to know me. So, like this Officer Magnanos, and that's also he recorded, confessed, and demonstrated that he was involved with evidence racketeering here with this, falsified police reports and worse. And I see that now an officer named Detective Samuda. He pretended he was the arresting officer in me. In other words, me to fake locations. Now with these other officers, and that McDonald's the only time he had kicked me off of campus to hide what I caught them recorded doing. And he they know this. That's why they made the detective Samuda switch the identity with the officer McDonald's. There was no arrest. Then they had a promise to appear with Weathersfield officers already involved with the Weathersfield part of this intercities. And on off Trinity College, the same ones involved with other natures of racketeering, bonded with the uses of and roles with an untimely death on Trinity campuses, real or made up, because they're used for these are people also further involved with the principal sex offenders campus intercampuses. Trinity College confessed and recorded that Joshua Julian, a Joshua Stryker, in other words, a Joshua Julian's recorded involved with them when they were forcing the principal sex offender with others then and now. These are sick games they have between the kids with the Weathersfield police chief's family. Real bad friends of his involved with identity thefts, frauds, racketeering. They have the private schools recorded, confessed, demonstrating how involved with this intersciences identity racketeering too. Sciences having identities, our identities of value progression too. Everything is this shared identity of value progression per the science of it. See, but we have to have we have to have be able to demonstrate when people are stacking lies in databases against us. And that we have to discern that and how it was, what motivated Connecticut interbranch to roles with the World Trade Center attack, and with and as what is manifest misprision racketeering, where and how, worse than racketeering. Not even lawyer, not even police form, not criminal. You'll see delusions wrought, criminally foreign influence, the bar itself, each identity, the ground location. You'll see how they've been using those sick lawyers who are indifferent. They're recorded sick and or consciously too, knowingly. They can't. These are bad people. Forced to it the same way. The overt criminal enterprise they show us. They talk about in the Senate through CNN, Fox News. They show you pictures of. Go through. You could discern. You could discern just by each age of campus. is sickly, distinctly a victim of what everyone, so sickly that everyone blamed it on other things other than themselves. Reactions to it. Pretended practical already. Pretended positive, never positive. It's positive as criminal insidious nature. See, but they can't afford each age of correlation nature to have freedom, to have free speech. So our media, Connecticut media, is invested already to racketeering right through administrations for what keeps each location, area, and state criminally foreign influence. We use remote, like with psychology. They owe more money. You know how much money we're going to gather here? We're going to have to change the opinion nature. We have to put a value nature system that is not this identity of negative value nature progression, criminally foreign influence, self value, pretended. There has to be, well, the 14th century, it's, there is what we know was the past. What we know, we think we could discern further from there, but we have to use theory. And then there's where we don't know, we can't see it all, but we know it's existing as three natures of invisible but still discernible, as history, and as that invisible but still discernible identity, those three parts are together. And the rest of the complete science demonstrates there are two identities of sequence nature before and beyond that, but their value is already here, inseparable from the extent of the range we are of this one nature that has its inherent active and progressive subnatures inseparable from wherever it is. So each identity of value progression has two identities of possession on both sides of it. So we'll examine this. That's what the picture is for in one of the last videos, where IAP, I stands for inherent, active, A stands for active, and P stands for progressive. So look and think about this now. One identity of volume is three identities of volume: inherent, active, and progressive. If you want to debate that, we know we're in the active. We know there are individual identities of value progression. We know there are grouped identities of value progression. We know there are identities of value progression together. There is also discernibly a positive or negative relationship that each thing individually grouped together can have to itself. And there's a way. See, this is scientific process using identity, using truth, where in relationship to everything that all identity ground locations, areas, and states, stewards already used each identity of value, like black, like white. Now that's with physical delusions and with sensibilities pretending to be about care and honest care. So with sensibilities pretending to be about calm justice, aggression, preventing free speech, stealing our free speech at the same time. These are people with sick natures, as all identities of titles. Originally and still, it's not personal. If you say that, they'll pretend, or they'll say, "Oh, that person's thinks everyone's bad." Dishonestly. See, that's why we have to counter the extent of the racketeering, private, with psychology involved with the various natures of courts recorded using it for all kinds of fact cheating nature racketeering, sequence racketeering, forging names, switching names, pretending whole categorically fake conversations into databases. There are exploitations here and there. Other nations do the same thing, locations, areas, and states. If they admit what and how they are in relationship to which each age can demonstrate, then they get punished sanctions wise. And the same thing happens there. So they're preventing free speech towards titles while they're preventing to be against such. Then we're just trying to do that. No, these are people stacking data, be preventing free speech offensively through time. They have all along the routes and stuff like that. Southstein Highway, all along it, involved racketeering with people associated with a DeMauro family and a Kerr family. And with this Phil Cololo and these Mendes police also recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved with racketeering with state police, with a Dillon family, and with judges, retired and standing with prosecutors involved further with a forensics locations involved with them with overt criminal enterprises and with those interbranch and with sequence racketeering. So when they're pretending, they're legitimately pretending to be with speaking with overt criminal enterprises. At the same time, they're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. You know, it's a whole bunch of ways. They really are speaking with overt criminal enterprises. They really are speaking with the courts. Really involved, stuck with they can't accept what is actually recorded, so they have been stealing people's identities and attaching even little kids to fake locations. Then they pretend because people bring other people's names up. You can't speak with them in person. Plus, they put all kinds. The only way I know these people are through all kinds of disgusting confessions by this Fred Grisey. Now that's how I know his roles with the Wethersfield Police Chief's family, and with people with women that were girls that had boys involved with interbranch and various nature courts through time on off campuses, attaching other people to fake locations, telling them to pretend that verbally. They have no recorded, they have no actually recorded, they have sequence racketeering. That's relevant to their roles with proven and with further recorded in courts, inside of courts affected racketeering acts roles with sequence. Now, even if they want to say that's just a wrongdoing or something, or just sequence shifting, it's not just that, because it's also tied to wire crime methods recorded and mail crime methods. And these are also the ones Washington, D.C., World Trade Center attack, racketeering acts against me on off Rocky Hill locations, on off WFSB recorded involved with them. Also, racketeering as the people involved on and off the World Trade Center attack locations. This is tied to a proven afterwards. It was proven inside the Ninth Circuit. From inside the Ninth Circuit, there had been post-dated documents presented to the panel of judges. And then the trade centers, that's right next to where the World Trade Center towers were. Then it took them out. Those are the same people that these officers with the racketeering acts against me on and off CCSU through time, since I was in the same campus. See, this detective Samuda has roles with. He recorded and confessed to people in the Britain Superior Court. He pretended he was an arresting officer of me before, and and I went to a hospital that I never went to for arrest or anything like that. So this guy, that's how he got involved with all these different departments from all these different cities. And they started it with a falsified police report. But this also brought Wethersfield police that were already switching names. There already rolls with like cable televisions and things like that, interstate wire crime with AT&T. These are people. This is a method that kept and keeps the identity of the FBI itself. They make them entertain what they did with Mueller and Coleman. Now they're hiding. They're pretending their integrity. They're pretending they're about positive or value, but their sequence shifts with Robin Luskin, former standing chairperson on RICO Law. Also, a whole bunch of other agencies and their family members recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved with all the natures of racketeering. They keep stacking me. Whole bunch dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court associated with Leahy family and with my new and past neighbors with them with these crime methods too, with confessions. Everyone's speaking through others, and then they bring up their roles with sick things like child abuses, and then they're pretending passions and emotions now with sequence too. Now get the judges to one name and sequence with them because they're also with further state police involved with the forensics locations, further with overt criminal enterprises through time in ways also with Joshua Julian was pretending lies tied to the people involved with the racketeering with Hartford courts and with New Britain Superior Court, pretending to perceive things that were relied upon by the people, the investigators, as the people also involved with the racketeering interstates in the World Trade Center attack. After I never had a conversation with a Dan Keene in my life. Never stood near him, had a conversation with him. They must have pretended other too. There are proofs. That's one of the I'm sorry, Dan. That's one of the people that was one of the victims in the World Trade Center attack. And there's a Joe DeMoro, and there's an Oliveri family, and other people that recorded from Trinity College recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with a girl who lived on that street and rolls with Heather Hansen, and people on Church Street in the corner of it involved with them with racketeering uses of and rolls with the media, with their identity thefts against me, their mail crime, wire crime rolls, their database racketeering rolls. Now they're fact cheap in nature racketeering rolls, as criminal and nature, sequence shifting, attaching little kids to fake locations, preventing people from speaking for themselves this way. And because then they exploit family members locked into defending themselves, self-defeating because they're letting the interbranches attaching and having attached the family members to fake conversations with each other about things that they know that recorded show them having been racketeering acts against all kinds of citizens, racketeering uses of all locations. They have no justifications of themselves. They have no excuses. Respond, please. I get the attorney general now too. Please do what's right, so I don't have to keep seeking people out through all the little people that had come make confessions to me in the past, and get a response from the people further with this Bob Chase recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with this Phil Collo and these two Mendes police forging names, pretending things recorded by police with child sex offenders, pretending they know me. I never had anything to do with this Phil Collo, and they know all exceptions record. He's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with Anthony Agman further involved with racketeering, like tied to they're also against people that worked for Paul Manafort, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with them with remote uses of CNN. For example, pretending to be up against the position of the president in the future having too much power, while they are consciously involved with preventing counters to their roles with criminally foreign influence, preventing mandated law, with the mandated law following bodies supposed to follow it, and roles in collusion with that. Wire crimes, mail crimes. There are doctors that attach me and my family to fake conversations about my online presence too. They just made statements. I never had a conversation with them. They made statements to me. I told them I don't want to make any statements. That was right after the first time, 3 times. Now this is totally other. This is Hartford stuff. See, this is intercities too. Down the street from the Harriet Beecher Stowehouse, Mark Twain's house, is the lawyer of Robert Chevrolet, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a whole bunch of people from my town involved with the Hartford courts, involved with the racketeering, also foreign and domestic military, uh, leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context. There are people I don't know the names of, recorded and confessed by Eric Burgess, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with others associated with the Dean, Dean Judd's family, and with other deans, Dean Keys, and other deans involved with further racketeering with Muslim nations. Now, these are also recorded how they keep locations, areas, and states here and there, fake sides, and that's self value because they keep manifest criminal and seditious nature, self value, preventing the first part of the Quran from being spoken by someone, preventing the first part of the Old Testament from being spoken about where it's about science, because the religious locations and the camp, the identity campus is all locations. From off those locations, there are database relationships invested for time reasons, other reasons, self-valued roles with sequence racketeering illusions, maintained where they need those illusions, where they will, and are kept needing those illusions, not for the reasons legitimate, like where, oh, this is how policing goes. So the nations, we each say share these policing, and we're going to talk about it. So a whole bunch of people associated with a Kerr family also confirmed on and off WFSB and racketeering with locations on and off there too, with the Wethersfield police chief and with people associated with Local 230 is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with them with racketeering with child sex offenders and other natures of racketeering, medical, with foreign and domestic and overt criminal enterprises, and the stewards of the Witness Protection Program, all recorded tied to the same house/S, further involved with the principal sex offender. This is again because they had roles with racketeering with the forensics people where they had with the police forms and all these other nations mixed with their fact treatment nature. See, this is where they're maintained knaves here and there. Suit and ties, self-valued, criminally foreign influence, zoning laws, pathology of houses since before cars. George Washington had to come here to this town to leave, and had to leave slavery with color overtly entrenched. Today, everyone has to leave out all the crazy racketeering laws against everyone that we don't even have to read to discern. That's all anyone is capable of when you have laws like that and you have rules with it. We are value progressions. We'll examine this. So we also have this like how many movies we have here, original, more real than any science has been, and as theater too, that juxtaposed. Each identity, the ground location, each science failed. All right. All right. So Sub Rosa weeps. Sub Rosa active body of value discernment. We have only theater speech that is fake. CT must break. We have no practical science. We have no practical reason allowed free speech, to use Immanuel Kant's phrase. So we don't have free speech. This is discernment of exceptions and exception nature. The discernment of the nature of a truth and of its differential relationship to itself, also sequential. So it is invisible but still discernible. So the identity of each subject increases, positive or negative, onto and as this self that is two identities of sequence nature before and beyond that are on both sides of each part of each cell, for example. I'm not a doctor. The cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall, these are three identities of sequence nature, as one of the things they are at the same time, as simultaneous nature. That has a simultaneously increasing identity of value progression. That is value now. How it is value now is how to reveal evolution's fruits and gifts and means. One way redeems. What is good to the order of the finite is good to the order of the individual, to the location. And what is good to the individual is when grouped, individual grouped, and together are being valued simultaneously, not in relationship to what is differential though and sequentially different, but where the sequence fills the same common thing. So we have everything, we have all exceptions and exception nature, not by accident, already engineered. Self cultivated roles propagated in, but propagated from what can only originally still blame the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, natures, acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal and citizen natures, wrongdoers, wrongdoing. So both parties are already recorded having been used remote. All locations of that's why it's necessary to see what is that, to discern what is actually recorded. You have to free speech, get them from this game where they may pretend people have conspiracy theories, make them say what? Who disbelieves? Get them from the names forging and switching simultaneously with this. Watch. It's way worse how they were used remote. They're just defending means and needs and to hide their natures together. Manifest locations, areas, states. Each modern nation sick beast. Not one is other. Here, Campus Marcius calls you home to train. The evolution is only real when it is evolution's course, and that works with ground alone and made it pure. Like sayings, I tell you things. Yes.